Kamasutra, the greatest book of love ever written. An ancient book on men and women and their relationship through life together.
Hardly does anyone know that this movie trailer was among top 3 most watched trailer in YouTube history as of June 2018, only behind Avengers Infinity War and Star Wars The Force Awakens with over 91 million views. The hit of Kamasutra as a classic book about love and sex has not only attacked the multi-screens for years, but also spread out aggressively to many other categories, including Kamasutra chairs, condoms, or even chocolates. Besides movies, music is another tool exploited to amplify the Kamasutra spirit. The original Kamasutra song brings out the sensual feel with the funky and epic bass. The song has got so many fans, especially from the West, who would use similar Kamasutra beats as a background part of their sexual routines. Compared to the original version, the modern upbeat song called Kamasutra by two American hip-hop singers, Juicy J and Cardi B, only utilized the name Kamasutra to catch the audience, and the lyrics were inspired from the widespread sexual stereotype. In Vietnam recently, Kamasutra has no longer been merely perceived as a book of sex positions, but as a term specifically referring to sex positions.
Thế thì Nam thích đọc những loại sách gì?
Em thích đọc những loại sách về Kamasutra.
Or to put it more simple, if you search for the keyword Kamasutra on Google, the first suggestion coming up would be, how many positions in Kamasutra? So, what is exactly Kamasutra? Kamasutra is made up of two individual words, Kama revolving around the ideas of desire, love, pleasure, and sutras for treatise. Thus can be referred to as a treatise for pleasure. Written by the Indian philosopher Vishayana in Sanskrit in the 3rd century, this book has been widely known as a master of sex or one-on-one sex positions in so many countries. However, in fact, the topic of specialized sexual techniques covers only one chapter of the book. The rest deal with provide building strategy of elite males through gaining pleasure love, sexual practices, courtship, wives and strategies for wives to maintain her husband's favor, how to win over another man's lady, ancient courtesans. Therefore, it seems that people are getting lost in Kamasutra translations, making Sutra widely misperceived and stereotyped.
The sexuality stereotypes of Kamasutra can be traced back to the intention of translators. Most of them enforce personal ideologies into their versions, hence providing a distorted view of Vajrayana's text. The classic and most consequential example is the first translation in 1883 by a revered Orientalist, Richard Burton, who was famous for his exotic tales and mighty adventures to the Far East. Burton planned to use Kamasutra as a gateway to liberate a sexually repressed Victorian England. Therefore, his translation emphasized heavily on chapters that talk about exotic sexuality and lovemaking. This problem is then magnified by other issues including sloppy translation, unregulated fact-checking, and illegal printing. According to Rice and Brodie, Burton knew nothing about Sanskrit but kept adding his own ideas into the edit anyway, hence creating the impression that Kamasutra only celebrates sex and intensifies gender inequality. Moreover, sexual stories were highlights of Oriental travelers, so Burton created this translation to maintain his long-established reputation with his peers. And after he published it in 1883, the book was illegally printed everywhere, thus worsening the misconception. Other translations face the same problem. Take Upadhyay's version for example. He also celebrates sexuality to criticize problem of sexual repression in India and to subvert Burton's colonial view of the book, a sort of rebellion against the colonists. But by doing so, his work falls into the dead end of nationalism and unable to provide an impartial view for Kamasutra. To sum up, these two versions are strongly affected by political and social context which the translators live in. In particular, Burton's work is affected by Victorian colonialism, while Upadhyay's is influenced by Indian nationalist movement. Furthermore, technology advancement and globalization facilitate the speed and widespread of these mistranslated editions. Such adaptations as Cosmopolitan, Red Book magazine just glorified sexuality and instruct readers on sexual positions. One book called Pop-Up magazine even creates 3D models out of those positions for further instructions. Recent years have witnessed an updated work by Wendy Doniger that has brought forth a more nuanced translation to subvert Burton's work. She pointed out his mistake, like word choices for reproductive organs and diluting original text. And most importantly, she explained that the original Kamasutra didn't want readers to imitate those sexual positions like other popular products mentioned. It only wanted to inspire couples to be active and adventurous in their sexual relations.
Zooming deeper through the lens of the revolution of sex and love in India, the wide misinterpretation of Kama Sutra is more complex. In India, there are two real enemies of love, including the tradition of set-up marriage and patriarchy. Basically, there seems a vague definition of true love originated from both sides as in the New Age. Regarding the marriage tradition, parents of the groom will decide a pride family they want, then negotiate their expected wealth and status before the couples get to know each other and get married. Even though it is increasingly becoming obsolete, the unwilling attitudes towards the eradication of this deeply rooted tradition is still predominant in India. Similarly, in terms of patriarchy, it is believed that conjugal love is an enormous threat to its structures of authority. If women hold the power in their sexuality, the manly power structures will be challenged, and the sanctioned boundaries that downgrade the female positions in the society are threatened. India's sexual revolution from the set-up marriage and patriarchy is still regarded as a work in progress with some positive signals. In respect of India's situation of love and marriage through time, there have been different interpretations of Kama Sutra concerning its woman empowerment values. Based on the corrected version of Doniger, Kama Sutra also strengthens the female role in the family by introducing multiple arts that every public woman should know, such as tattooing or cooking. There is a section in this book that particularly speaks directly to women about tips to manage household inside out. For example, how to manage other wives of their husbands. If we believe in such translation, Kama Sutra could be considered as the early evidence of marriage and sex revolution that highlighted the woman power in sexuality. On the contrary, Puri argues against the feminism values discussed in the Kama Sutra book, claiming that the scriptures is merely concerned with the techniques of maximizing sexual pleasures. By teaching the woman to master at sex, they want to further empower the patriarchy, since only qualified women are allowed to serve and satisfy the elite man. Such definition of fit and unfit woman for sexual fulfillment further foster the entrenched patriarchal structures in India. The point is that such critiques against Kama Sutra feminism values tend to dominate the media that is consumed by the young. Homegrown magazine is a case in point. This means the messy mix of interpretations of Kama Sutra with the support of media has worsened the stereotype of Kama Sutra. In conclusion, the lost in translation of Kama Sutra is deep and broad, facilitated by the influence of liberalization and globalization in India. Such popular cultural stereotypes against Kama Sutra has been tremendously penetrating into the Indian young generations. adoption of its sexuality culture, molding Kamasutra into a reciprocal process, attacking its own original form.